I know the cosmetics about Li Haqqi. I know the platform. I know the website. I know it started in 2018. I know the very profound journey it's been on, along with Lebanon's journey. But if you can just describe the easiest way possible your relationship to Li Haqqi, because I know it's a horizontal group. I know there's no official leadership. But now that you're out of the group, if you could best describe your role, the way you see it in that group, and in a way what that group means to you right now. Because I'm going to guess it's still a very positive emotion, but maybe there's something else in the mix that's not necessarily that group. It could be the way Lebanon has emerged following October 17. I know it's a big question, but I'd like to start it this way because I think it's appropriate. A lot has happened.
Yes, indeed. First of all, I thank you for this interview. It's an honor, and it's interesting for me, especially at these times. Okay, talking about Li Haqqi, first we have to go back in time to 2018. In 2018, so we decided that it's about time to move the protests from the streets against the regime to elections, to electoral campaigning. And at that time, we thought that we cannot face the current political powers of the regime using traditional methods in politics and organizing. So that's why we decided that the only way in order to match the power and the hegemony of these parties of the regime is through using unorthodox methods and campaigning. Because in traditional methods, they have way more money than us. They have control over municipalities, over the society, over the economy, etc. Also the media.
Right.
So that's why we decided to use unorthodox manner in organizing people in an electoral campaign, an untraditional campaign, grassroots-based, decentralized, based on very firm principles, organizational and economic, socio-economic principles and political principles. After this campaign succeeded in a way, definitely we couldn't breach the parliament, or our list failed to get a seat in the district. However, we managed to organize hundreds of people and get 10,000 votes in our district. So this moved us to the idea, or we moved to the idea of, okay, we found it. We found the way in how to face this regime. And that's why we transformed Li Haqqi from a grassroots-based electoral campaign to a political movement, decentralized, grassroots-based. So this is Li Haqqi now. This is to mention that this kind of explains my relationship with the Li Haqqi, because I was at that time one of the candidates in 2018,
right,
and one of the main participants in writing the political rhetoric of the campaign and the movement later on. So it's deep. Yani I have accompanied Li Haqqi from its early beginning, with all the struggles that we had internally and with the powers of the regime, the parties of the regime.
I'll tell you from my side, my relationship is at a distance. I got to know this group on the street. And in 2018, I remember that moment where it seemed like there was a potential to have somebody from the list you were on to actually win in parliament. And even though the outcome of that was maybe complicated among opposition groups competing with each other, but nonetheless, the name emerged. And in terms of grassroots accomplishments, I think this group does stand out. Because it started, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it started principally from Shuf Alay, but it spread. And it took, in a way, it took hold. And I appreciate you also mentioning this, there's decentralization in its blood, but also even within the group, there are almost autonomous groups that work independently.
True.
To the point that maybe, and we can get into this as much as you'd like, maybe that was designed best for where Li Haqqi was then, in terms of smaller, more manageable, and that something grew maybe beyond everyone's expectation. And if we can go there, and I'm trying to be sensitive because I don't want to sound like I'm judging. I don't know. You're the person to ask. That do you think, looking back, that maybe the way it emerged as a grassroots, autonomous-led group, that it in a way caught some people by surprise, and that could be a benefit and perhaps a disadvantage 4 years later when it comes to where we are right now? And I'm being careful here without trying to name people, or even, there's no pointing fingers. It's more the ethos of Li Haqqi and Lebanese politics, that the two maybe did not marry themselves well.
Actually, I don't believe that it's a problem of merge or how Li Haqqi works within the Lebanese political framework. I think it's to the contrary. It's possible that we could have done quite a good work. However, there is a problem in Lebanon related to the opposition itself. Okay, so we still lack in Lebanon. We still lack organized large political parties, which are real political institutions, and this makes the parties or the political groups of the opposition, like scattered, weak.
Yeah.
There are no tight connections, and what makes these connections is the political program and the political orientation of the group. So this made all the groups of the opposition all over Lebanon in a weak position. And
therefore Li Haqqi is in that same situation.
Yes, however, Li Haqqi is one of the biggest groups, if not the biggest, among the new parties, let's say, or the new political groups. However, the whole scene was overwhelming. You see too many groups. People don't know, actually. If a small group has like 4 or 5 people, 4 or 5 members,
and they're all running for parliament.
Yeah. So, but for the people outside, they see that this is a group and that is a group. They don't know that this is okay. That Li Haqqi is organized. They have elections. They have councils, elected councils, etc., etc. They just see, okay, they have the same page or an account on Instagram, etc. Yeah. So that's the whole story.
Yeah.
So I believe that the problem, definitely Li Haqqi had made mistakes. This is something that we have to admit. However, the main problem is with the political groups of the opposition in general.
If you don't mind, let's go into this, but knowing that a very important decision was made in 2018, and I remember this happening very quickly, that after the elections, or even it happened naturally, that there was a quick decision to turn this grassroots movement into a political party, or at least organize it in a way that's political, less activist, more politics, and in a sense both at the same time. Then, of course, I mean, it's October 17 changes the landscape, but I think Li Haqqi played a primary role before that, because the protests that I remember, they were small, but they were visible. That's the name that it was always associated. And I'm thinking now, going back, you tell me if this is right, because it's a bit unclear in my mind. Before October 17, Li Haqqi wanted to protest that same day, if not around that time, regarding the forest fires. And then very quickly, October 17 took hold. But Li Haqqi was already there on the ground. So there's something very important in terms of the aspirations of this group. You're part of the story. You're running for parliament. And we've had, in a sense, 4 years to try to figure out what didn't work in 2018. And we've had one of the most miserable 4 years of Lebanese modern history. Could you offer some perspective on where the burden is in terms of someone like you today, who wants to work in parliament, who wants to be present in politics, but then it has to take a decision that is not so much in the personal, it's more in the group's interest. And is there anything there in terms of you're also shackled by things that are perhaps beyond Li Haqqi's control, that you cannot enter parliament on your terms right now? You're forced to make a decision that could be what you want to do, but you're going to have to wait again for another 4 years to have some footprint in parliament. I'm trying to mix the political and the personal here. And what you've seen the last 4 years, because you're part of that group, you're in its core, and now you're out. So I think you're the best person to ask, actually.
Actually, when we approach me personally and in general Li Haqqi, our approach to the electoral to elections, parliamentary elections, is not very traditional also. So we don't see the elections as a way or the only way or a way to reach the parliament. It's not the only aim.
Yeah,
it is okay. It's a reward, and it's important. However, it's not the thing.
It's not the goal in
it's
itself.
Not the yes.
Right. Okay.
So our mainly approach is the following. We believe that the main problem in Lebanon now is that the political parties of the regime, this balance of power is still way too much in the favor of the political parties of the regime. When we talk about the power balance, we are talking not only just the popular support, it's also because they have the state, they have the economy, they have the foreign relations, they have the control over the municipalities and the local areas, and the regions. So actually they have this control. So our main aim through participating in the elections is a way to calibrate this power balance, to organize more and more people around our vision, around our principles, around our political program.
Without being in parliament also, so it could just be pressure from the outside too.
No, but we believe that succeeding in reaching the parliament is a result or an outcome of your success in calibrating the power balance. So it's not I get, let's say, 2 or 3 MPs and then I can do some reforms in the parliament. It doesn't work this way, because in Lebanon we don't live in a democratic country. We have different challenges. So the main aim is to calibrate this power balance, and the way it translates, whether in the parliament or in the municipalities or in the syndicates and orders, elections of syndicates and orders, etc. This is a translation of this change in the power balance. So that's why that's the mentality through which we enter the parliamentary elections, and in general all of our political work.
I will ask you more later about your personal reasons for resigning several hours ago officially. So it's a timely issue, but we'll get back to that. I appreciate any group trying to defy Lebanese gravity, even if you can debate the subjects, and I think Li Haqqi is not necessarily an ideological group. You have a lot of differing views,
tendencies.
Right. So there is a healthy debate within. And you can maybe have constructive disagreements on those issues. And I think that happens anyway across the spectrum, but it happens within some groups. And Li Haqqi is one of them. But also defying, I think, the inertia that we both know and accept, and maybe some of us are more reluctant to challenge it. And I'm talking really where politics and society meet in Lebanon. So I'll give you one simple example. Li Haqqi does not openly discuss the Sunni void that everyone is talking about on media, podcasts, and writing. It's almost now, it's become the daily discourse. I don't see Li Haqqi going that direction. They go in a completely different direction.
True.
And I think there's a big challenge there, because that's the heavy inertia that I think defines modern Lebanon, even if it's bad. It's where a lot of things end up in that discourse. Li Haqqi doesn't go that way. When it comes to more sensitive issues, and we can offer two here, working with or without Kataeb, for example, Li Haqqi stood its ground in a way and made it clear that there are certain lines that this group will not cross. For better or worse, that's up for debate. There's a healthy discourse when it comes to Hezbollah's weapons within Li Haqqi. And the reason I know this, I've had the pleasure of having these conversations with different members of Li Haqqi. They don't always agree. But there's a unified principle that this is a challenge. And the group is trying to find a creative way to address it. So I sympathize with any grassroots group when the economy is crashing, when politics is degenerating, when geopolitics makes this country a very painful experience. You still have the noble work of protesters trying to make a difference. So there's that very good side to the story, and I think it's healthy. That said, there's an exposure to this group that I found quite unique, as someone not really involved, as somebody standing outside. I've come to terms with this, that social media is not the place you go to find where the debate is, or even to actually understand the debate. But I myself saw two things that happened very quickly. The engineering and architect syndicate story, the lawyer syndicate story. The attacks that happened online, but the attacks that happened in general. Sort of a coming to terms with what October 17 actually means. And for me, it sounded like this group was trying to also figure it out along the way. Could you, from your side, what you saw, this tentative alliance with the engineering and architecture order, the quick fallout that happened, and if my memory is right, this is within days that there was a problem within the story. Months later, no agreement on the lawyer syndicate. And right now, almost seems like a burning of bridges where there's bad blood that I don't think was there naturally to begin with. Is this Li Haqqi's way of trying to find its own narrative, catching up with October 17, trying to distance itself from things that it wasn't happy with and has the power to do so? Or is this really just the way Lebanese politics works, that there's other factors that get in the way? It could be something silly. It could be ego. It could be shortcuts to power. It could be maybe people within Li Haqqi that resign early, people that don't want to be part of this anymore. And I'm trying to find where the turn happened and how you saw it happening, because I understand it as a bad outcome.
Actually, I don't see a change in the way Li Haqqi approached such the alliances, I mean, and other issues. We have always been clear from the beginning. I mean, on the personal level and Li Haqqi in general, that the main problem in Lebanon is not just like a problem of small reforms or a problem of corrupt people who are in the state, in the government, in the parliament. It's not this. We have a serious and structural problem and defect in the system itself, political system, the way politics work in Lebanon. And this has too many reasons or causes. The first is related to the social or political contract which Lebanon was built upon, and the second thing is after the war, the same warlords they put their ties and became the rulers of the politicians of the country. So this is a very strong and tight, the grip on the political situation in Lebanon on all levels.
Yes.
So that's why, having said this, we can't approach politics with the same rhetoric of the regime. So that's why Li Haqqi doesn't talk about the Sunni void.
Right.
That's why Li Haqqi doesn't talk about or says no, the Kataeb is one of the main parties of the regime. So we can't just everything is okay and let's move on. No, there is a structural problem that we don't want to have clashes. However, we want to build our own experience based on our own political principles and on our approach to politics. So this was our approach. This has always been our approach, and it's still today. So even in the architects and engineers elections, there wasn't a direct alliance with. We didn't have an alliance with Kataeb. We had alliance with some groups of the who were close to Kataeb, but also it was the 17th of October was really overwhelming in the way these too many people and we should be united, and hundreds of thousands of people making a lot of pressure. So this was really overwhelming regarding this experience, but we managed to continue this our way of working throughout all the up to the electoral the elections, the parliamentary elections now.
So in a way, it's not that Li Haqqi changed. It's more that the parties that emerged were changing on the road to politics and parliament. That Li Haqqi was more, in a way, not stubborn, because that sounds negative. It's not that. It's more.
No, we were stubborn indeed. Yeah, definitely. Yes. So, and that's not a bad thing, because you see, we managed to prevent many things that would have made things worse. Now in this current situation in Lebanon, there are certain questions that any real opposition has to answer. The questions are, first, is it a problem of a political system, or is it a problem of bad guys and we should replace them? The second, what's your position regarding the banking sector? What's your position regarding Hezbollah and its weapons? What's your position regarding who is going to pay for the losses? Okay.
Right.
So what's your position regarding the explosion of the port, Beirut blast, and the investigation? So these are very main questions that you have to, every alliance now in the elections, this defines which is the firm and real opposition, and which is, mahzouzi. So or is sympathetic in a way with the regime. So that's why we were very clear that in this elections we have to be firm regarding the alliances that we make based on these main questions.
Right.
that's where we stood firm, and we were appearing as stubborn, because we were thinking that now we need to organize people around as many people as possible around these main points.
Right.
Okay, so it's not just about, okay, we are all against them,
Yeah.
because all the people are against the parties of the regime, even the supporters of these parties. Now, if you go to someone with Mustaqbal or Ishtiraki or Hezbollah or Amal or Tayyar or Uwait, they will tell you that these parties are corrupt and bad, and everyone, it's common knowledge. This is not the question. The question is, what are you going to do, and how are you going to organize in order to organize people around solutions for salvation, yani ننقذ البلد, to save the country. Okay, so yes.
No, I mean, I don't want to interrupt you. I want to pick up on these points because they're very. I've watched you on TV. I've seen your ability to explain something that's very principled, and also you're able to say something which, in a way, for me, sounded very appealing. And it's a recent clip on MTV, which is really what made me reach out to you. This is long before the withdrawal of the candidacy, and this is maybe 2 weeks ago, which seems like history now. Maybe you said it without realizing that it would impact someone like me, but it resonated. You said, not everyone pre-October 17 is a failure. And you said it in a way that was quite accurate, that كلٌ, the way you understand it, is not meant to blame everyone for trying pre-October 17. And you can even have some success stories, and I think that's the words you chose, meaning that there are accomplishments that were made, but that's not the story. The story is systemic. Now, that's a point that I can have a discussion with, because then the question becomes, what exactly is the system and what is paralyzing it? And there you can have maybe an ongoing conversation. But what appealed to me is that you were able to say two things at once, and I don't know if that was deliberate. You're saying in a way, okay, there could be good guys within Kataeb. There could even be accomplishments made by Kataeb. That doesn't mean we want to work with them. So you're saying it both in the same sentence. Or it's not about Kataeb, it's about any party that tried before. We don't need to work with them right now. So let's get into this as much as we can without it turning into a 10-hour debate. I don't know if the system itself brought about the misery that we're in right now. And I've had this discussion with many people from October 17 parties. Before this one was with Min Tishrin members. Before them was with Kataeb. And prior to them was with Kitli al-Wataniye. And I think I'm the lone man out because everyone seems to agree except me. So I'm going to try with you. I may have an ally here by accident, which I don't know. I don't know if the system can bring this level of misery. I think your point about reform is well taken, and you want something that's going to end the nightmare. I don't know if the nightmare is sectarianism, or for that matter, corruption, or for that matter, mediocrity, which we know well, or for that matter, the local things that make us dysfunctional. I don't know if that's the problem. Li Haqqi is able to talk about one subject which I think is very important and very problematic, which is the geopolitical dimension that keeps Lebanon a very almost hostage-like state in 2022. But it's the emphasis on that, which I think is sometimes overlooked by October 17. And I think that in the end of the day, that is what drove these parties away from each other. How do you talk about this problem without it dividing October 17? I understand the system as being old and inefficient and in need of a major upgrade, but I don't think it needs to be thrown away yet. And I do like the idea, even though you said you don't. But in my mind, I like the baby steps that are healthy for a society in terms of reform, and to make it as appealing as possible. And I say this as somebody who's secular, somebody who doesn't like even the word sectarianism, and also knows that the importance of power sharing in Lebanon goes so deep that it's not appealing to the majority of Lebanese, at least right now. So I'll try to take all of that into one simple question. I genuinely believe it's about reform. It's not about throwing away the system. I think it's about making sectarianism less ugly. Could be in a Senate, Majlis al-Shiyukh, that never happened. I think society in Lebanon does matter. And the secularism appeal, I don't think really resonates beyond the cosmopolitan crowd that a lot of us know well. I don't think it overtook society. And you said something which is quite interesting, that most Lebanese are not happy with their political parties pre-October 17. My conversations have been the complete opposite. But maybe I'm talking to the wrong people. They are frustrated with the situation, but they're voting for those parties.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a huge plate on the table, but can you address any of that in terms of whether Lebanon is born in error, which I think you're hinting at, or whether Lebanon is hijacked by problems that are not necessarily Lebanese?
Okay, I will answer this, but I will need some time.
That's the advantage of a podcast. There's no commercials.
Yeah, okay, great.
I'll wait for the sun to come up and then... No, fine. I appreciate you even answering this question, because I think this is the heart of a lot of what happens in terms of...
it's a very important question that I have to answer. Okay, first, mentioning the supporters of the political parties, or the question of why, if people are so, they know that their parties are corrupt and bad, why do they still vote for them? And this is a main question which everyone thinks of. So, but however, we go back to the main point which I mentioned, which is the power balance. Okay, so when the person goes and votes, he doesn't, because the problem in the regime is systemic. Problem in the system, defect in the system. This gives the parties, the ruling parties, a very strong power over the people, the way the people think. So once the person is going behind the curtain to vote, he will not be thinking about, okay, these are corrupt. What if I vote for them, the country will get bad and so on. He will be thinking, okay, if I don't vote now, tomorrow they will kick my brother from work. They will do this and this and that. So that's the way they forced people to think. And people alone, and because the economy of the people is highly reliable, because it's a clientelistic economy in Lebanon, a clientelistic system in Lebanon, and a rentier economy, because it's highly depending on the ruling parties. So this makes the people feel that they don't have the ability to make any change. Okay, so it's not that they don't know. It's not a matter of awareness. It's a matter of feeling, okay, what can I do? These are warlords. If they might punish me, they might kill me. They might, kick my family, let's say, out of the. If I want to go to the hospital, I might face problems. Whom am I gonna call? So this is the problem of the people. This also originates from the problem of the regime itself. The regime, the way the political system in Lebanon is designed, it gives a lot of power for those who are currently in power. يعني, okay.
Yeah.
And when we say system, we're not talking about just sectarianism. It's not this question. It's political, economic, and centralized state.
Right.
So the way the system is in Lebanon, these leaders, they go to the center, to a certain table.
Yeah.
They decide, okay, I get this, you get that, you get this. And then they force these decisions that are done on this table, in the center, on their people in the areas.
Right.
So they use this state to force their agendas and their interests over the people. This is how the system works.
Yes.
So that's why, but what several factors give power to this whole combination or structure. One of them is the sectarianism, because every one of these warlords is the representative in the system. He's representative on paper of his sect. You see, so this is how it works. It's a whole, it's a set of dynamics, which work all together.
But I will gently push back, because I like the way you're framing it. It sounds like you're correctly putting politics and economics together and applying what needs to be fundamentally fixed for the system to at least function and provide a better outcome. And I appreciate the decentralization component. I think that's the one issue that's probably the most important, but it's not the one that's talked enough about. I think people say it casually now. A lot of groups have adopted it too, and I don't think they don't necessarily know what they're talking about sometimes. Yeah. These words, I think, catch on in ways that are shallow. So we can get into decentralization, but before that, I think we're roughly the same age. I'm going to guess you're in your 40s by the measure of
40.
You're 40. I'm 40. I can tell. It's the tiredness, but you're not old enough to justify it. So we're the same age. We're born the same 12 months apart. We've seen what Lebanon looks like during a civil war. We're old enough to know how it felt when the war ended, and we know how it felt when the Syrians left in 2005. I think we also appreciate that there are some problems that Lebanese have no excuse not to fix. And then there's something as huge as Hezbollah that no matter what we do and say, it's beyond our control. And I think that's it's a criticism that is correct. That you can put billboards on the highway. You can even talk about it endlessly and have no policy about it. It doesn't correct that huge problem. So let's go more to the local. The reform that didn't happen and the earlier attempts at pushing this regime to reform didn't happen. And Lebanon degenerated into a huge mess that we're in. I don't know if that is an issue of governance. I have to say that I still think the fact that this crowd is the crowd that we grew up with and the crowd that we don't have today, that we maybe would have liked to see on the streets, they're removed by the same problem that curtails and eventually kills movements in this country. And before we started recording, I was talking about somebody we both admire, Samir Asir. And I think he's October 17. Whether he was there in March 14, I think of him as October 17. That type of person appeals to me. And I know that the moment that kind of person pushes for change, they get removed. That to me is what the story is about. More than the way you described it, which is true, this rentier state, this crony capitalism gone crazy, this consensus on a very ugly note. I think the violent component of politics is really what's killing us. And I don't think we emphasize it enough.
Definitely, no, I absolutely agree.
And I'll say one more thing. The port blast is not a Lebanese problem in my mind. Meaning, yes, corruption leaves ammonium nitrate in a warehouse. It's not what brings it here. Not the way we're talking about corruption. That's the battlefield that Lebanon is still in, which I don't think is something that protesters can change. And I think that's what kills us, not the other stuff that's hurting us severely. So sorry, I interrupted you. You were I shouldn't have interrupted.
No, I agree with to the contrary. Yeah, I agree with what you just mentioned. But also I see it a natural component of the. That's how such systems work. They thrive on violence, on corruption. It's all interrelated in a way. Even the influence of the geopolitics, because there's the country, the people of the country, the society is not binded by a strong, government state which gives them all what they need. Okay, because such system makes each sect has its own foreign policy and own foreign relation. Iran, Saudi Arabia, etc., etc. So these are all. It makes us, prone to the influence of the agendas, of the geopolitical agendas, much more than anything else. We bring this energy from outside to inside because our system works this way. Even the violence, the system manifests itself this way. It's a matter of changing roles. Now, Hezbollah, for example, the issue of Hezbollah. Yes, Hezbollah is a political party. It's military arm of political thought and ideology and of a sectarian project. This is definite. We know this. However, how to face this? How to face it? Is it through war or through having having a government which gives people everything they need in terms of education, medicine, etc., hospitalization, everything, social security, in a way which makes such parties such as Hezbollah less capable of controlling its people through, because Hezbollah has an economy, its own economy. They have their own so you need to face Hezbollah through and all the parties, but mainly Hezbollah through
we don't have to get that far into Hezbollah, but I will say one thing, because I don't want to make you uncomfortable when you don't want to talk too much about that group, because I think
I don't care.
You don't care? Okay. As long as you're not okay. Good.
Yeah.
I've had this debate with Jad Ghassan, who's now a Mumfid candidate in Metin. Yeah, and I had this debate with him twice actually, on his podcast. He came on mine. I know you're not in Mumfid, but the way you're framing the argument, it does sound very close to the way he described it. I still don't think of the system creating Hezbollah. So in other words, you definitely want a state that functions to prevent something like Hezbollah from emerging.
Yes.
That is a goal, absolutely. But I still see the paralysis of the state as a byproduct of a story that's bigger than Lebanon. And it's 6-7 months ago, Tarek Bitar stopped his investigation. We don't even talk about it that much anymore. I don't think he stopped his investigation because the system makes it easier for him to stop his work, if that makes sense. So I guess maybe that's another debate that's endless, is the system and Hezbollah, and how do you create a state that functions when you have a problem that is so big and that's not entirely Lebanese. I always think of it as that story has to decline for the state to function again. And I'll add something else. I think the moment two words entered the debate, Kataeb and Hezbollah, I think that's the moment people sort of went into their camps. And I'd like to ask you, this whole diagnosis, this whole, almost people, somebody should write a dissertation on it, Kataeb and 17 Tishri, because I think it took up the mind and energy of a lot of people, except Kataeb. I think everyone else.
Yes.
Everyone else. Even the Uwait were talking about it. Kataeb were like, well, everyone had a position on this. When you look back now, and I know you said it at the beginning, the principles were held. You didn't compromise on certain principles. Do you think the only path to parliament, even if that's not a goal in itself, even if that's not the end goal, is the only path to parliament in practicality working with an old regime party that identifies itself as a reformist?
Such as Kataeb.
Yeah.
No, because such an alliance would be just for the benefit of Kataeb, but not for the benefit of us. Because it's an organized party. And also, elections is not mathematical. For example, let's say these political groups of change.
Yeah.
Let's say they have 200,000 votes. Okay. And the Kataeb has 50,000.
Yeah.
So once you go to the elections, it's not 250,000. It's because we lose much of our votes because of the alliance of Kataeb.
Separately 200,000 and 50,000, but not when they're standing.
Okay, so if they are together, you lose much of your votes because of this alliance. Now I'm not just I'm talking about because you mentioned that is it for the benefit of you? I'm saying no, it's not for our benefit. It's for the benefit of Kataeb. If it happened, regardless of my position politically.
But I appreciate you're able to. In a way, show the other angle.
Yes, I'm sure. Because once you want to assess the picture, you have to see it from all sides.
Yeah.
So this is how it happens, because they are able to push voters to target certain seats in the parliament, and then they will be able to increase and I believe that's the real intention of Kataeb, pushing so hard to get into alliances with the opposition. That's their hidden agenda, because they feel that we just get 3 or 4 MPs, but if you ally with these groups, to hell with them, they lose. They don't get any MP. But we ourselves might be able to increase our number of MPs from 3, 4 to 7 or 8 MPs.
Right.
So they are going to hijack the parties and the groups of the opposition and the groups of change in order to increase their seats as Kataeb.
Right.
So that's the idea.
Okay, I'm not going to defend Kataeb. I'm going to actually go down this road with you, because I like the way you're framing it, and that's the advantage of speaking to you rather than speaking to, let's say, Taqaddum, for example, that is working in some ways with Kataeb, or other groups that are not working with them, but they don't see it as a problem for parliament.
Yes.
I appreciate the way you're framing it. If a party that is pre-October 17, and again, I'm not trying to defend them, if they see themselves as sharing the same pursuit, not the failures of the past, but the road ahead, is there any way to give them a benefit of the doubt that they could be a group that theoretically could join this alliance? Is there steps that they have not made that would have made, let's say, you individually more comfortable? Not a full alliance, but let's say wouldn't be a burden anymore, that they would not be labeled as sulta or nizam, that they could be more like what you want in a future Lebanon. And I'm sorry to ask this in a silly way, but is it simply just a matter of it's a family name, it's a legacy party, that's already a problem, that's too much for us?
No, the issue is way more complicated, in my opinion. Now we are the first thing is that now we are in a very I would say delicate situation in Lebanon, or very critical situation in Lebanon now.
Meaning like right now.
Right now. yes, exactly. So and we are in a process, especially in the after 17th of October up to date. Now things are changing, and there is political activity in Lebanon, and people are the system is crashing in a way or another, the powers of the system, because they lost their economy. And they lost. This is a very important factor. The state which used to feed them is now it's
broke.
Is broke, totally broke. So now we are changing. We are within a certain change in Lebanon, and this power balance, which I talked about, is now You see, people are becoming more aware that this is the right time to make certain actions. Perhaps not in the parliamentary elections, because as I said, certain dynamics control the electoral process. However, people are starting to feel that it's about time to make certain changes. So this is a natural thing that some parties who were in the parties, among the parties of the regime before, start to think of, let's leave the ship and get dirt in order to save ourselves. So here we have to be very careful, because or else then all the parties of the system, they make an abrupt self-criticism. Everything is fine and let's go. So we can't be such. There are responsibilities. There are parties who participated in everything which we live in today. 30 years of policies, of decisions, of economic, financial decisions, fiscal decisions that led to what we are living in now. In addition to Hezbollah's role and the geopolitics and everything. So there are responsibilities. We can't be just everything is okay. And so even having said this, parties such as Kataeb, if they really have real will, they need to make within their own line a certain trend within the parties of the regime. Let them work separately, but not try to breach the ranks of the new political groups who are emerging and trying to build their own new political experience in Lebanon.
Right.
So this is how I approach it.
So you would have. I mean, it's hypothetical, but you would have preferred a healthier division from a group like Kataeb, with the October 17 parties.
Let them do their own experience,
right?
And let us do our. If they are really, now I have real doubts that they are really willing to do this. And that's why they are. I'm confident that the real aim of the Kataeb is to get more MPs and to clean its history and its participation in the government, and in giving vote of trust for the several governments that were responsible to what we are living in today, and for Timdeed for the parliament, etc., etc.
I'm trying to apply what you're saying in terms of what happened the last maybe 5 years or 6 years. So in other words, the fact that Kataeb resigned and the fact that Kataeb withdrew their MPs after the port blast, the fact that Kataeb took decisions that are pre-October 17, but they seem to imply at least a path for reform. That you're not against that, but you don't want that to be mixed up with what happened October 17th. So could I go one step further then? It's not part of the discussion necessarily, but I mean, it's on every single billboard.
Yes.
Let's go with the Lebanese forces. They had competent ministers in the 2016, 17, 18 years that seem to be more competent than the rest. I'm not saying that they're shining stars, but I think you look back and they seem to be okay, that they're not problematic individuals. Let's say, I'm trying to be very careful here. That's fine for you as well. Let them do it, but it's not your story, it's their story. And
you see, my problem is this is the minimum that they should do.
Yeah.
This is if they did good things.
Yeah.
This is the minimum. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you should do.
Right.
That's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So that's it for me. It's not something that I'm good. I did.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you should do. This is not the question.
Is there any regret with? I know you're not officially right now in Li Haqqi, but going back a few days ago, is there any regret in terms of where the group is on a not popularity, but more that it is a little more isolated today than it was 2 years ago? Not isolated.
Yes, it is. It is more isolated. It is. Yeah.
That it finds itself in a unique corner that it wasn't in. Is there any regret in that, in where things ended up?
I don't believe it's healthy to regret things in politics. So it's always you learn lessons, you make like an evaluation, and you build upon that. So we are currently, I believe everyone, me personally and every person should be doing this. It's not a matter of regrets, it's a matter of assessment, evaluation. And we might have done things wrong, or we might have done the correct things.
Right.
So no, I don't have regrets in all my political career. If I don't know if career is the right word.
It seems like it, because
yeah,
I'm sure I know that you play guitar.
Yes,
but you're not a musician by trade. I think of you as a politician,
yes,
more than a musician.
Yeah, definitely.
But you're probably as good at music as
it's a hobby. Yeah, it's a hobby.
Okay, so we'll get to your personal story, and I want to save that for the end because it's an important subject. But decentralization, which I think you still, I mean, whether you're in Li Haqqi or not, I'm assuming that this is something you fundamentally believe in. It's got nothing to do with that group, something you principally believe
definitely.
in. I'd like you to explain something very basic. The fundamental difference between the lexicon you apply, the language of decentralization, and the more fringe momentum for federalism. Because I think, and this happens by accident, there's this hesitation on both sides of the spectrum to really explain what they want from that story, and that there's an extremist element that comes up which shouldn't be there. So I'll give you an example. I had an episode with a guy, his name is Iyad Bustani. He's a die-hard federalist, and he sounds a bit eccentric at times. But when you speak for 2 hours about federalism, you realize this is just an academic exchange. It's a form of governance at the end of the day. You can apply prejudice, you can even apply sectarianism, you can apply whatever you want to it, but the word is not that problematic. On the other side of the spectrum, I think it has the same kind of burden, and that it's not explained enough to make it just a word. That it's fixing a problem, but the word itself is not the problem.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is one of the assessment, يعني, and شو بيقولوا نقد ذاتي, self-criticism.
Yeah.
Which we should be looking into in the coming months and years, maybe. Yes, so it's regarding decentralization and federalism. So first, the first thing is on what basis you do. For example, in both, whether federalism or decentralization,
Mm-hmm.
you would be dissecting the country into provinces or whatsoever.
Right.
So the basis on which you are making these dissections is a super important factor.
Right. Yeah.
So is it sectarian, based on sectarian factors or elements, or is it based, like we see it in Li Haqqi, based on social, economic, and environmental, ecological factors? So this is one thing. The second thing is, do these provinces have their own legislation or their own laws, etc., or they are all binded by a civic laws on the national level, and كلهم binded together.
Right.
So this is the other difference. And
so it's almost federal versus local
yes,
level governance.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So is it is it political, or is it administrative and economic and financial?
Right.
So these are the main questions.
Yeah.
So we stand even in when you talk about decentralization, also there are different approaches to this. For example, is it the centralized state, which gives some of its powers and roles to the provinces, or is it that no, the provinces have enough decision making?
Right.
So we believe no, that the provinces should have enough decision making, not on the political level and the sectarian level and so on, but on the main decisions related to the people and their economy and their. So these are mainly the differences, different approaches.
It almost sounds like the reason it doesn't it doesn't take hold in the conversation, because it doesn't make people crazy. It's actually a very serious, dry subject.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, which I think is a disservice to people that really want to know what it means. Because in a way, it almost feels like this is how Li Haqqi saw itself in terms of making it more horizontal.
Yes, decentralized.
Actually,
the way we view our, the way Li Haqqi sees the country, Lebanon, is the same way in which it organizes itself.
Right.
So we organize ourselves based on how we see the society should be.
Right. You pioneered in a grassroots movement that went from very determined but small groups pushing the envelope 4, 5, 6 years ago to turning into a momentum that tried to make its way into parliament in 2018, to becoming one of the most important groups in October 17, pushing the envelope further, exposing yourselves further by trying to win in 2022 elections. And then, almost overnight, the group announces its withdrawal. The candidates are out.
Yes, except in Babda.
Except Babda. And hours ago, you made your own resignation public. I want you just to... First, let's go into the resignation, because I think that's the most important. And I'll get into the other things as well. But what made you make that decision in the last few days? I'm going to only assume that this has been a very stressful period, but you took a decision that is one step further than just saying, perhaps you disagree. You decided to leave the group, which I think it's a symbolic statement. So as much as you can say without, it's not meant to throw Li Haqqi under the bus, nothing like that. It's more your relationship right now and why you took a step that's quite vocal, and I think was shared a lot today. I mean, I was getting messages about your post, and I didn't want to assume anything. I thought the best thing is to ask you.
Actually, in my resignation, I mentioned, and I believe this is the main message, which is a message of holding responsibility. So in the last or before the last part in the resignation, I mentioned that I hold much of the responsibility of what the place where or the failure that happened now, and this needs an assessment, whether internal in Li Haqqi or assessment on the personal level. Definitely much of the decisions we made all the decisions together, but also my personal decisions in various or in different situations have contributed much to this loss. So first, it's an act of taking responsibility of many of the things that happen. Okay, definitely we are a collective group. It's not just me.
Right.
But I believe in certain places I hold much responsibility, because especially in my role in setting or expressing the rhetoric of Li Haqqi at certain times, also internally, organizational and etc. So I hold much of responsibility. This is the main thing, and especially in the elections, and definitely in the last elections. So that's why that's one of the main reasons, for this resignation.
You used responsibility and failure. What is the failure in your mind when it comes to this issue?
It's not a failure in this election, okay, but there's the thing that you mentioned, just mentioned, we were
in that isolated,
maybe certainly isolated, the way we expressed our political rhetoric, what we used to say. So this put us in a certain position, especially me as a person. I was present in TV episodes, etc. I was responsible of carrying this rhetoric many of the times.
So the responsibility is in the messaging, in that sense.
Yes, this is one of the aspects, not just the only aspects. In addition to many other things. So some things are internal, some things which maybe we can't now talk about, and others are external factors. Definitely the decision wasn't I was thinking about this resignation before the elections, but I didn't do it. Yes, I didn't do it.
Sorry, before the elections, meaning once the withdrawal of the candidates?
No, before, like months.
Earlier?
Yeah, months before.
I see. So you'd be a candidate, you'd be campaigning, but not part of Li Haqqi.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
No. Regardless, I wasn't thinking of being a candidate at that time. In the summer.
I see. So going back.
Earlier. Going back earlier.
Okay.
So yes. So it's not just like now. Okay, we're done. No. So, and I believe Li Haqqi is a political group which has the potential to grow and change and I felt that I did everything that I could do for Li Haqqi at this up to date.
Yeah.
So maybe different contributions, different different contributions inequality wise, so. But
it's somebody as an outsider who's done an episode before he announced his candidacy, but after he ran in 2018. I had a sit down with Mark Doe. This is the first or second week after October 17. So this is, if you can imagine it, it's in Urbanista, where people were protesting between Martyrs Square into Jemmezi. In the audio episode, we caught some of the protests in the background and people talking about the protests. And this is before Taqaddum becomes a name that is associated with politics. So this is just as the momentum is there. And it was pretty clear that he had a political position already, and he was moving in that direction. You fast forward 4 years later, one name is running in Shuf, your name is not. Do you have any... I mean, I feel in a way uncomfortable asking this because I don't know if I'm overstepping. Is this something that you wanted to be a part of, but you took a decision that was not maybe the one you wanted?
No.
So you wanted to withdraw from...
Yes, because, internally, the discussion that we did was, خلاص, there was an internal decision which everyone agreed on, or most of us agreed on, that we are not going to participate in this, and we don't want to create another list.
Right.
So you see, so because why? Because the people are, everyone is saying that you should be unified, and this. So we didn't want to be responsible of having another list. So that's why we thought that the best decision is to withdraw.
I see. So it's a principled decision too, and that you don't need, that extra list wouldn't work. So you make the decision to not go down that road.
Yes.
Okay.
In addition to many things, the complications and negotiations of the formation of the lists, not just in Shuf Alai, in other areas which we withdrew from in Lebanon, which Li Haqqi withdrew. Yes. So there were many problems related to the way the lists were formed and created.
Right.
So this, خلاص, we took everywhere where it's not working, we are going to withdraw, because we felt that all of the Haqqi felt that we are being cornered and in all areas.
And that's something you were okay with in principle, withdrawing. Because
yes.
I'm trying to see if...
me personally? Yes, I was okay with this.
Very quickly after that, you exit the party. And I appreciate there's internal things that cannot be discussed. I can only assume that you will maybe share these things if you want to later. I personally would rather have you running in parliament. And I say this as somebody who does not necessarily find any natural alliance with some voices in Li Haqqi, or even for that matter in Memphid, which I know they're not the same party, they have different ideas, they may not even have that much in common. Sometimes I think they're unfairly put together as the isolationists, but that doesn't necessarily mean they get along always too. But let's just say I look for the common cause, and your positions resonate with someone like me, that in terms of trying to find common ground and politics in a more mature way, I think it's a disadvantage to not have you run. But that's not for me to say. I mean, I'm applying my selfish concerns on you here. But I hope that in 4 years, if this passion is still alive in you, that you do run on your terms. Because I don't think somebody who put that much time and effort into trying to improve this country should find just retreat and withdrawal.
Oh, yeah.
And I think your post was quite eloquent. You were very caring to Li Haqqi, and you were also very aware that it's not over. And I think you found the right tone. It's not easy to write these posts. So I appreciate you doing that, and I hope you stick around 4 years later. I'll end it with, I'm curious why you're even in this world to begin with, because you look like somebody who should not be in this world. I'll tell you my understanding, right? You're normal.
Thank you. I was concerned. Yeah.
I've done over 300 episodes, and you can imagine, you said it in a way, Lebanese politics and the way we live in it, I mean, it's absurd. So you can have a long, extensive conversation on things that you're not making money off of this. This is not enriching you believe in it. It's sincere and it's honest. What took you down this road? it can't be something that you just found yourself in 2018. I'm assuming the story is deeper, and probably I'm going to assume there's some overlap here in why a certain type of personality finds themselves in this world.
First of all, we are a political family, and our family traditionally is active in politics. And I have been active in politics since 1999.
Okay.
So first, it's a matter of this is not why.
Yeah.
This is a matter of this is one of the factors.
Yeah.
So this is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is I have a project in my mind, and it's not a personal project. It's a conception of how I see if a country should work, and I'm still working and developing this project. So this led me naturally to be an activist, an active person in politics. And I am a writer. I have a book.
I wish I knew this. I didn't know.
Okay. It was published in 2013, and I am working on another book. It should be published soon. So everything is interrelated to each other. I see my, it's. I don't want to sound, but I feel like I have a mission.
Yeah.
You see, that's an inner feeling. An inner feeling.
Was the book about politics?
No, it's fikri, thought and psychology, philosophy, and politics,
right,
and economy. Usually, I have the tendency to relate everything to each other because I believe that the whole universe is interrelated, and even on the local level, everything is interrelated in a way or another. So
you're on this road already. I mean, in other words, Li Haqqi is just another chapter in this journey, because 1999 you're active family-wise, but you're still active politically.
Yes, I was a member of the Communist Party in Lebanon.
I see. Okay.
So then I resigned in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah. And also I made in 2009 I made any self-criticism and assessment, and my thoughts changed. Once a friend of mine told me something that I like. Yeah. Every person has a year with which he says before and after. So my year is 2009. So to me, everything is before 2009 and after 2009.
That's interesting. 2009 is an election year. It's I think it's the post-Doha government that emerges. Mm-hmm. What is that year for you?
No, it's not related to politics, but rather to personal and I made an important change inside my the way I see the world, my own philosophy, so it was very impactful this year.
I'm going to try. Okay, you're 28 in 2009. I'm doing my math quickly.
Yes.
Okay, 2005. I hope this is right. You tell me if not. You're in the George Hawi communist section, or is it the other communist?
No, the official.
The official.
Yeah.
So not George Hawi.
No.
Okay. So you're not on the March 14.
No, and not on the March 8.
Right. You're the yes. Okay. I don't remember who was leading the party back then.
Khalid Hdadi.
Okay. Yeah, that's good memory. I would have never remembered. But that's not necessarily the driving force, because in 2009, 4 years later, something important happened. So what is that shift that makes you the before and after?
I believe it's I don't believe much in the causality thing. This happened because of this. There are many interrelated factors, as usual. So personal experiences, my own readings and writings, my political experiences, my social and so on. So everything and you see you get into a transformational phase.
Yes. Yeah.
With which you make drastic changes and radical changes in the way you perceive things.
Yeah.
So it's not, if we want to relate it to certain specific events, definitely it would be an invention, because
that's interesting.
Yeah.
But the year, which I like. You can
yes,
find it.
Yes,
yeah.
I love years. Yani. I'm fascinated by. I remember years very well. Yeah.
I mean, it's not the same story, but it's the same expression. Mine is 2005. And
yours.
For sure. And it's really running into these types of characters, whether it was Samir Asir, or even seeing for the first time what it's like for Lebanese to go to the street in my lifetime, demanding something better. It inspired me back then. And I like the way you're saying it. It's not necessarily one or two or three things. It's the moment. It's hard to explain that moment sometimes, but it's emotions maybe more than anything.
Yes, and usually if you want to explain it, you'd be like inventing, inventing things to rationalize this moment.
Yeah,
but it's never accurate.
And I don't think anyone else knows it but yourself.
Yes, exactly.
I admire that 10 years after that year, you were part of the most important protest movement in modern Lebanese history. You took something which was in your mind, you turned it into a group that's permanent with or without you. And you're still politically charged. And I'd like to pick up that book and see your next book. And I hope you're not... I hope you're fine, given the current climate, because I think anyone in your shoes has been through a lot. And it's a very stressful time. No matter what side you're on, I think it's been a lot of pressure on everyone. So it's an honor to do this together today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.